Hello Stampers, and welcome to Laura's Stamp Pad. Today I just wanted to show you a little bit about how I store my cardstock and my designer series paper and how I use my scraps. I've had a lot of questions about scrap use lately, and I do my best to try to use up all those little pieces possible because I just feel so guilty throwing them away thinking surely I could use them. But as with all of you, there's just so many scraps and sometimes you just have to let some of them go. So I just thought I would do a little video today showing that. This is my cardstock, all of my solid cardstock storage. You can see I have all of the brights on the far left with the subtles in the middle and the regals on the far right. On the bottom two of each of them I have the neutrals, and then of course down there at the bottom I have my in colors as well as a few more neutrals. So now I'm just going to show you up close and personal on each of them. So for each of the colors I actually have a cellophane bag with all of my scraps inside for that color. So now when I go to reach for Old Olive, then I know that I'm going to reach for the scrap bag first because it's right on top. So I'm always going to grab for that first, and then it makes it super handy for me to use up all of those scraps before reaching for a full piece of cardstock. As you can see, I have quite a bit of Bermuda Bay. It looks like I almost cut for a card and then decided to use something different, as there's a lot of card bases in there. So that makes it super handy. I will say convenience and ease of use is always the best way to go to make sure that you're using it. If you keep your scraps in a different section, then you're probably not going to remember to go use it. So with me just grabbing for the color and finding those scraps right on top, it makes it super easy to use for each of those. So I will say, prior to getting these Stampin' Storage containers, I actually had all of my colors in a drawer. So each color family was in its own individual drawer. And when I did that, I did the same concept, but it wasn't as good. I used to have them all in this little box. So in this little box, I had cellophane bags for each of the colors. So I tried my best to go to the box first and look for the cellophane bags. But as you can see, this box isn't quite 8.5 by 11. So some of my bigger scraps didn't fit. Of course, this box definitely got outgrown real quick because it's much smaller. And while it did work, it wasn't really the best because sometimes I would just go for a full sheet and forget to look in that little box first. So that's how I store all of my scraps, is just in a little cellophane bag with the color of all of the other full-size pieces. So you could do this with a Ziploc baggie or a cellophane bag or anything like that. But definitely keep them close to the full-size pieces so that you are reaching for them in the same spot and you're more likely to use them. Now let's go check out our designer series paper. So this is my designer series paper, and I have them all in these 12 by 12 drawers. You can see I have foil paper on the bottom, glimmer paper next, designer series paper next, and then the top three are seasonal designer series paper, which would be that found in the current mini catalog. Then my 6 by 6 paper stacks, and then the very top one is scraps of designer series paper. So this is still a slight work in progress, but again I have the same concept over here. So in each drawer at the very top I have a cellophane bag with all of my scraps showcasing what's in that drawer. So these are all of my foil paper scraps. And then again, I have one for the glimmer paper and all the others. Now, I do have the scraps of designer paper up here, which are mostly the designer series paper here. I do have my 6 by 6 in cellophane baggies because they're so small, and I want to keep them kind of all contained. So the scraps for this are actually in the same baggie. So mostly this top one is just the regular designer series paper from the annual catalog, because I'm trying trying to keep the seasonal one in its own baggie as well in that same one, because that's what I'm kind of working on all the time during that catalog. So so far this is working pretty well. Sometimes it gets really full, other times it kind of dwindles, but it's working pretty well for me. And again, it's great to go to that scrap pack first to see if there's any pieces in there, and then of course if there's not, then go for that full sheet. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this little tutorial on how I store my scraps so that I can be using them the most. I do randomly go through my scraps, and when I just have way too many of a certain size or just too much, then I sort of purge each of them. So sometimes I do that by just throwing it away, and sometimes I put them into scrap bags and offer them to my fellow stampers, or sometimes I give them to my nieces and nephews to play with and stuff like that. So every once in a while I just kind of have to go through and get rid of them. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be posting pictures of this on my blog, laurastamppad.com. If you have any other questions about how I do any storage, or if you want to see a room tour, then I'll leave a link for that here in the corner, as well as the button to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any other videos. I'll see you guys all next time. Happy stamping. Bye-bye.